Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, Mike Collins were to make the flight of Apollo 11.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. We have a liftoff.
We felt stretched out. We actually were a little bit taller because the space between your vertebrae extends a bit.
No one could ever make a statement that the moon is flat the way that people thought that the Earth was flat. It was very obvious that it curved away.
The last living astronaut of Apollo 11 has dropped a revelation that shakes everything we thought we knew about the moon landing. The iconic images of flags and footprints are only part of the story. What they encountered on the moon was far stranger and more dangerous. Lives were lost, secrets buried, and chilling evidence erased. Tune in before the truth is silenced forever and the secrets of Apollo 11 are lost to the void. The Forgotten Moon Mission, Mysteries. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin may not have been alone on the moon, according to some unusual claims. Moments after setting foot on the lunar surface, the astronauts allegedly encountered a giant alien ship, a mothership bristling with advanced technology that made the Apollo lunar module look like a tricycle next to a jet. Let's ditch the history books for a moment and dive into the weirder corners of what might have gone down on the moon. But those first steps on the moon may have been silently watched by something hidden in the shadows. Armstrong reportedly described the ship as big and menacing, surrounded by mysterious installations. And it wasn't new. This wasn't some alien camping trip. Whatever built these structures had been there for ages. The rumors are based on so-called declassified mission transcripts that surfaced decades later, paired with the accounts of whistleblowers who, inconveniently, didn't live long after sharing their stories. Coincidence? Let's just say things get murky. One such whistleblower, Milton Cooper, a former Navy intelligence officer, claimed the Apollo crew saw way more than they bargained for. Cooper said these revelations didn't sit well with certain powerful people, and his life ended in a hail of bullets under mysterious circumstances. Then there's Carl Wolf, a technician who reportedly saw photos of lunar structures. He didn't fare much better. He was found dead before he could testify about what he saw. Just bad luck? Maybe, but mysterious deaths seem to stack up when people talk about Apollo 11's alien encounters. This isn't just about blurry UFOs and whispers of shadowy government cover-ups. There are more tangible oddities, like that weird disc the astronauts left on the moon. This wasn't some random trinket. It carried messages from leaders of 77 countries. A goodwill gesture, NASA said. But why leave a message if no one's supposed to read it? It's like leaving a birthday card for a ghost. Symbolism, NASA argues, but critics wonder if it's a subtle acknowledgement that someone or something is up there. And then there's the so-called Luna base. Whistleblowers like Cooper have claimed that on the moon's far side, the side we never see, there's an alien base tucked into craters. Underground tunnels, mining equipment, and massive spacecraft reportedly litter the area. NASA denies these claims, but photos of the moon's surface show odd patterns, straight lines, and shadows that don't quite add up. Natural formations or signs of something artificial? Depends on who you ask. When NASA did something straight out of a sci-fi script, they bombed the moon. Officially, it was to test for water, but conspiracy theorists argue they were aiming to destroy something else. An alien base? A secret they didn't want getting out? Whatever the reason, the event raised eyebrows and added another layer of mystery to NASA's lunar activities. And why, after achieving the monumental feat of landing on the moon, did NASA stop going back? They say it's funding, politics, priorities. But whispers suggest a warning, aliens telling us to keep off their turf. Maybe we weren't ready for what we found, or maybe we were polite, uninvited. If you think this is just wild speculation, let's not forget the Santa Claus Code. Apollo astronauts reportedly used it to describe UFO sightings, ensuring the public remained clueless. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin are famously tight-lipped about their experiences. When Buzz hinted at something following them, he quickly dismissed it when pressed further. Fear of being labeled a nutcase? Fear of what might happen if they spoke openly? Who knows? Still, not all evidence holds water. Alleged transcripts of Armstrong describing alien ships lined up on the moon are filled with terminology that doesn't match how astronauts or NASA communicate. Critics point out that some whistleblowers didn't work for NASA directly, but for contractors. Others claim photos showing supposed lunar structures have been debunked as tricks of light and shadow. Hare's claims about airbrushing UFOs out of satellite images added another layer to the intrigue. She stated that her colleagues regularly altered images to remove evidence of unexplained objects. According to her, it was standard protocol. When questioned about the origins of these objects, the usual answer was silence or vague statements about atmospheric phenomena. Then there's the account of a supposed conversation between Armstrong and an unnamed professor years after the moon landing. Allegedly, Armstrong admitted they saw enormous spacecraft on the moon, larger and more advanced than anything humanity had built. He reportedly described the ships as big and menacing, a direct echo of the earlier rumors. Further adding to the intrigue, various independent radio operators claimed to have intercepted Apollo 11's transmissions. These individuals reported hearing references to unidentified objects and descriptions of spacecraft. While NASA maintained radio silence on these claims, ufologists have cited them as key evidence of a cover-up. The mystery of the moon deepens when considering NASA's sudden cessation of lunar missions. While budget constraints are the official reason, the timing coincides with an era of heightened UFO sightings and conspiracy theories. Skeptics suggest that Apollo 11's encounter, if real, may have influenced NASA's decision to abandon lunar exploration. After all, if extraterrestrial life exists and claims dominion over the moon, humanity's presence might not be welcome. NASA's legal ability to withhold information adds another layer of suspicion. The National Aeronautics and Space Act of 1958 allows the agency to classify data deemed a threat to national security. While this policy makes sense for sensitive Earth-based operations, its application to lunar activities raises questions. What on the moon could possibly be a national security threat? The bombing of the moon in 2009 only fueled these questions. Officially, the mission aimed to analyze the moon's composition by creating a plume of debris. Yet, critics argue the act was an attempt to destroy evidence of alien activity. If so, it raises troubling questions about humanity's role in space exploration and the secrets still hidden from the public. The possibility of alien civilizations on the moon remains speculative, but the evidence, though circumstantial, paints an unsettling picture. From mysterious transcripts and whistleblower accounts to NASA's evasive actions, the story of Apollo 11 is far more complex than the sanitized version presented to the public. Whether these claims are rooted in reality or conspiracy, they capture our imagination and challenge our understanding of humanity's place in the universe. The moon landing ended, but the journey for the crew had just begun. Triumph, isolation, and Earth's fragility. The Apollo 11 mission is either a triumph of humanity's ingenuity or the first chapter in a much weirder story about extraterrestrial encounters. NASA sticks to its guns, denying anything alien-related. But for those who love a good mystery, the questions linger. Did we really go to the moon just to plant a flag and collect rocks? Or did Armstrong and Aldrin step into something much bigger, something we're still not ready to understand? Whatever the truth may be, one thing's clear. The moon isn't just a rock orbiting Earth. It's a mirror reflecting our deepest fears, wildest hopes, and the possibility that we're not alone in this vast universe. All right, let's cut through the fluff and get real. The Apollo 11 mission isn't just about planting flags and bouncing around on the moon. Sure, we all know the famous story. That summer night in 1969, everyone glued to their TVs watching a couple of guys take giant leaps for mankind. But what about the stuff they don't plaster on posters? The psychological toll, the emotional baggage, and the weird aftershocks of going where no one had gone before. That's the juicy part. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, and Michael Collins didn't just wake up one day, slap on spacesuits, and shoot off to the moon. NASA had them running through brutal drills that would make the toughest boot camp look like daycare. They spent years in cramped simulators, pretending to be weightless and figuring out how not to lose their minds when stuff went sideways. They practiced for every possible disaster, but no amount of prep could simulate what it would actually feel like to leave Earth behind. The fear of the unknown wasn't just some abstract thought, it was a daily companion. When they launched on July 16, 1969, it wasn't some smooth, relaxing ride. They were squished into a tiny tin can, hurtling through a vacuum, knowing full well that one wrong move could turn them into cosmic dust. Think about it. The entire planet was counting on these three guys to pull off something no one had ever done. No pressure, right? And while Armstrong and Aldrin were prepping to make history on the moon, Collins had a different kind of nightmare to face. Total isolation. Collins, poor guy, had to stay behind in the command module, orbiting the moon alone while his buddies were out there being legends. He was literally the most alone a human has ever been. No radio, no backup, no nothing. Just him, a bunch of buttons, and a view of the moon's dark side. Sounds peaceful? It wasn't. He called it the loneliest moment of my life. But he owned it. He knew his job was vital, even if it meant sitting in the shadows while everyone else got the glory. The sheer mental strength it must have taken to hold himself together during those hours. It's hard to even fathom. Armstrong steps out, drops his famous line, and the world goes wild. But here's the thing. Every move they made was choreographed down to the second. There was zero room for error. They were walking on powdery dust with clunky suits, doing science experiments, taking pictures, and trying not to screw up. Imagine the pressure. And yet, amidst all the tasks, they had these moments of pure awe. They looked around and saw a world that hadn't been touched by life in billions of years. And then, when they looked up, there was our little blue planet, fragile and glowing, floating in an endless black sea. That's when it hit them. Earth isn't just home, it's everything. This mind-blowing perspective is what astronauts now call the overview effect. It's this mental shift where you suddenly get how connected everything on Earth is, and how tiny and breakable our world really is. For Armstrong and Aldrin, it wasn't just a cool view, it was a life-altering realization. They saw humanity as one big, messy family living on a delicate rock in space. This wasn't just a fleeting thought, it stayed with them long after they returned. But coming back down to Earth, that's where things got tricky. They were hailed as heroes, paraded through streets, and showered with praise. Sounds amazing, but for them it was a mixed bag. The world expected them to be these untouchable icons of success, but underneath the surface they were wrestling with some heavy stuff. Imagine coming back from the moon, only to find yourself struggling to connect with people who had no way of understanding what you'd been through. Buzz Aldrin, for example, hit a wall. Imagine achieving the ultimate goal, walking on the freaking moon, and then coming back to regular life. What do you do after that? Buzz struggled with depression and alcoholism, searching for purpose in a world that suddenly felt way too small. It took years of therapy and self-reflection for him to find a new mission, inspiring future explorers and advocating for space exploration. His journey to recovery wasn't glamorous, but it was real. He didn't shy away from sharing his struggles, using them as a platform to help others facing their own battles. Neil Armstrong, on the other hand, wasn't the type to bare his soul. He'd rather build a barn than give a speech about his feelings. After the mission, he stayed out of the spotlight, choosing a quiet life. People close to him said the experience had changed him in ways he couldn't put into words. Maybe the moon's silence got into his soul, or maybe he just didn't want to be a walking soundbite. Either way, he kept the deepest parts of his experience to himself. Those who knew him well respected his need for privacy, but it left the rest of the world wondering about the weight he carried. And Collins? He seemed to handle things better than the others, but even he admitted that seeing Earth from space left him feeling detached from everyday life. Once you've orbited the moon, grocery shopping and traffic jams just don't hit the same. He found peace in sharing his story and staying connected to the space community. But the weight of his journey never fully left him. His role might have been less flashy, but it was no less essential to the mission's success. Apollo 11 changed everything, marking the start of something greater: resilience, unity, and the overview effect. The Apollo 11 mission wasn't just a giant leap for mankind. It was a giant leap into the unknown, emotionally and mentally. The three astronauts didn't just break records. They broke new ground in understanding what it means to be human. Their triumphs and struggles remind us that even the most extraordinary achievements come with a cost. As we dream about sending people to Mars or beyond, we need to remember that space exploration isn't just a technical challenge. It's a test of the human spirit. And let's not forget the lesson of the overview effect. Seeing Earth from space has the power to change people's perspectives, to make them see the bigger picture. We're all in this together, floating on a tiny rock in a vast, indifferent universe. The Apollo 11 crew got that. Their journey wasn't just about reaching the moon. It was about finding their place in the cosmos. And that's the real story we should remember. The lasting legacy of Apollo 11 doesn't end with the moonwalks or the science experiments. It's in the stories of resilience, isolation, and transformation that these men carried with them. It's a reminder that no matter how far we venture, we're still human, fragile, curious, and constantly searching for meaning in the vastness of space. Their journey showed us the best and hardest parts of ourselves, and as we push forward to new frontiers, those lessons will be more important than ever. Beyond the astronauts' individual struggles, the Apollo 11 mission also reshaped how humanity sees itself and its role in the cosmos. For one, it marked the start of a new era of exploration, one where our ambitions stretched far beyond our immediate needs on Earth. The mission proved what was possible when science, determination, and global unity came together. It wasn't just about a space race anymore. It was about imagining a future where humanity could step beyond its cradle and explore the vast unknown. And let's not forget the cultural impact. For years after the mission, the moon landing fueled art, literature, and cinema. It sparked countless stories, poems, and songs about reaching for the stars. It wasn't just a technical achievement. It became part of the human imagination. People looked at the moon differently, not just as a distant orb in the sky, but as a place we had visited, a part of our shared history. This shift in perspective affected not just scientists, but people from all walks of life. Even on a practical level, the technologies developed for Apollo 11 spilled over into everyday life. Memory foam, cordless tools, and advances in computing all trace their origins back to NASA's efforts to get to the moon and back safely. The mission wasn't just an investment in space, it was an investment in humanity's future on Earth. As humanity prepares to write the next chapter of space exploration, the lessons of Apollo 11 will remain a guiding light. The mission showed us that the impossible could be achieved, but it also showed us the importance of humility, resilience, and unity. In the grand scheme of the cosmos, we are small, but together we are capable of greatness. That's the enduring message of Apollo 11, a message that will continue to inspire for generations to come. But there's another angle to consider: the long-term implications for future missions. Space isn't just the final frontier, it's a mirror that reflects the best and worst of humanity. Apollo 11, in its triumph, also highlighted the challenges we still face. The mission brought countries together in awe, yet it also underscored how divided we can be. The space race was born out of competition, a desire to one-up each other during a tense political climate. But the moon landing showed that collaboration, not rivalry, leads to greater achievements. Today, as we plan missions to Mars and beyond, the same lessons apply. Cooperation between nations isn't just idealistic, it's essential. Space exploration demands a level of unity and shared purpose that transcends politics. The International Space Station stands as a testament to what's possible when we work together, and Apollo 11 laid the foundation for that mindset. It's not just about planting flags anymore, it's about building bridges. And let's not forget the personal sacrifices made by those involved. The Apollo 11 astronauts weren't the only ones who faced immense pressure. Their families lived with the constant fear that their loved ones might not return. The engineers, scientists, and countless others who worked behind the scenes gave up sleep, stability, and time with their own families to make the mission a success. Apollo 11 wasn't just a story of 3 men, it was a story of thousands, all united by a common dream. Looking back, it's easy to romanticize Apollo 11, to see it as a flawless victory for humanity. But the reality was far more complex. It was a moment of triumph built on years of trial and error, a reminder that greatness isn't achieved without struggle. The mission taught us that failure is a stepping stone, not a dead end. And as we look to the future, those lessons remain as relevant as ever. Did the Apollo 11 mission uncover evidence of extraterrestrial life that NASA has been hiding? Share your thoughts in the comments, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.